Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your boy Jamsys, and today we're in for a different style of video, I guess. I've been getting a few requests in my Discord channel and like on my Twitch and in my Discord channel mainly, but people have been asking for a drafting guide to like more of an aggro style per se, and I'm here to provide that, but it's gonna be slightly more of a standard take because that's what I've been playing mainly. And some of you might say, hey, wait a minute, you're not a legend player, your opinion doesn't matter. And to that I say, why are you bullying me? And to other people who might say that, wait, aren't you a cleaver? I was a few seasons ago. Like if you look at this handy infographic that I drew, my Clilias was definitely more on the cleave side in denial because like picking imprints into Ran isn't exactly what I would call aggro. But now that I am reformed and a productive member of society, I've been playing a new comp that I'll be more than happy to show with you. Or like you've seen in the last two videos if you've been paying attention. But this style of like standard aggro revolves around a very like set number of units in this helpful... I had too much fun making this, okay? But it's fine. If you look on the list, you'll see like it has a few key components that we'll break down. So the first part is we need a speed opener or a contester. Notice that there's a few openers that you normally see that aren't on here, like Ran. Ran's a cleave opener. Like if you're playing him in aggro, like I don't really think that works, to be honest. And there are units that you can argue you could put on here, like Amid, but again, like if you're first picking Amid Politis, you're kind of a cleaver. Like I think it's time to go to therapy and maybe talk to somebody about this denial. It's not healthy for you is my point. Anyway, but if you look at the infographic, you'll see that one unit is clearly better than most of the other ones, but you know, we need to pick a speed unit because it discourages other people from picking speed, you know? Like if you pick LRK hand guy, that's just an invitation to get, you know, hate crimed by like Lua, Flitica, yada yada yada. And they all have like their pro and cons. For example, even Laika, the worst one here, I think, she has a few pros. She has good base speed, she can hold guiding light, and she doesn't really care about Ran or Peyra because she's a green unit. But her downsides are like literally everything else. But it's really up to your account. I've been mainly using Peyra because I enjoy the fact that she has 128 base speed, and another one of her benefits is that she's just really flexible. Some people's reaction to picking Peyra is that they pick like Edward and Designer a little bit, but the problem with that is Peyra's like just fine pressing S3, or if there's a Selena in the game, she can just soul burn S1 and be okay with that too. And so a lot of these strengths about these openers is that they're flexible. You can use them in a lot of ways, especially with units like Flitica or Lua. Like there's a ton of ways you can play them. Zeo's in here because like technically he counts because he's an opener that's an anti-opener, but he holds book. But like I kind of feel like this is like cleaver territory, so please seek some help. The next category for this type of build that we need is like a neutral-ish CR pusher / cleanser, because a lot of drafts, if you aren't careful, you're gonna get debuff to hell. And a big strength about a lot of these units is that like when you see these, they don't like normally typically scream like I'm going to play really aggressively here with my picks. They're more like neutral, which I think is a big strength to some of these picks. But these units all provide potential. Like for example, Inos might be pretty weird, but a fun neat combo you can do is Inos plus Opsig into LRK, and then Opsig gets attack buff from Inos, and then LRK provides a barrier and their whole team dies. Or if you have like a slower like 280 Amid with like 250 ER, you can actually use that as like a pseudo DJB. You still have to be careful of Politis though, but since we're not first picking it, it's not cleave, like I guess. And the one I mainly use is DJB because one of Peyra's biggest counters is variant version. So we're just gonna do the thing where we pick the counter unit with the unit, you know, like how Politis does. But yeah, we're gonna move on to the last set in stone category, which is the safe DPS. The safe DPS options are kind of limited. That's one of the problems I think a lot of people have with drafting right now, is that the picking a DPS in 3 can be really tough because like you just get counterpicked really hard. But here's a list of some of them. One of them is clearly much better than the others. I don't know if you can tell, but like that's my opinion. Bonus points if they hold book. And while I say safe DPS, there's obviously counters. Like there's counters to all of these units. Like even Stenny has counters, like believe it or not. But it's just the way you can draft your whole rest of the draft to support them, and they can potentially solo carry a game. I will say though, I've been enjoying LS Aiden much better than like your standard Aiden build, so like take that as you will. But now that we have like our core 3 units set out, now we get into the more like game dependent, and this is all based on like what gear you have on your account, what you can gear, what MO5s you have and don't have, whatever. But this is the spot where you can hard counterpick your opponent team. If they're like picking Cleave, this is your time to pick FCC, Karina, Senya, Surin, Kayron, BBK, like that angle. But if you're playing more in standard and you see, for example, that your opponent picked Aiden, this is your time to pick like Sahak, Bryceria. Like if they have Arya, Sylvan Sage Rivian, you can pick Solitaria, you can pick DDR. Like it's very flexible. You just have to see what your opponent has in the draft and then counter it from there. One of my favorites to do is that people get too comfortable when I pick Payra, DJB, and Stenny, and they think they're playing standard. And then they start picking things like Pirate Captain Flan and Solitaria. And I'm not going to play standard against that. So what I tend to do is I tend to speed up my drafts near the end, where I pick Architect Leica and Zahak, or I pick Strays, or I pick an anchor that destroys your team. Like if you pick a bunch of red units, I'm gonna pick Arya and laugh at you as you kill yourself. You know, it's like that type of concept. But yeah, explaining only gets you so far. Let me demonstrate it. So we're gonna queue up for our first match here for the fun demonstration, and we go up against Hui. And if you didn't know, Hui is a participant in the E7WC. I think he was like 4th place or something. I don't know. Anyway, but he's definitely not a shabby player. But I know that he prefers to play standard, I think. And his pre-bans didn't really scream, I'm gonna cleave you. So I felt really safe to pick my DPS here, which is Stenny. And this style really needs you to read into your opponent's drafts. My opponent responds with Clilias and APOC, which are like very NPC picks, I'm not gonna lie. But we picked Payra DJB. Payra covers APOC and Clilias because she counters both of them. And DJB counters Clilias, so if Payra gets banned later into the draft, I always have that as an option. My opponent responds by picking Aiden, so I can't just press Payra S2, which is pretty understandable. And if they pick LRK, I'm gonna throw up because LRK is one of those really annoying units. He fits into the counterpick category, but I miss him as an ML5, and LRK fulfills a really nice niche where he does damage, but he's also knight. But oh, he picked Yola instead. But I see a potential for an Arya solo here. You might be thinking that Arya actually dies to Yola, but that's actually a mistake that I can demonstrate later. I picked Bryceria because Bryceria, again, hard counters both APOC and Aiden. And, you know, I always love my elf waifu, so I'm gonna pick Arya last. So, like, do you see what I mean when I'm like continuously trying to pick against what my opponent is drafting instead of just slamming down units for fun? I mean, there's a time and place for that too. It's called draft mode. But I think if you want to get better at RTA, you just have to practice with the unit pool you have and then fill in the gaps as you go. My opponent last picks Edward, but I just have to ban it. In case they ban Arya and let Bryceria through, I'm gonna kill myself on Ed. And my opponent actually thinks that he's safe into my Arya because of Yola, and they just ban out Bryceria, but that's gonna be a big mistake that I'm gonna you know, demonstrate why Yola is not a safe answer for Arya. We open up. My Payra goes first because, you know, she's like 10 base speed up on Clilias. We go for the S1 stun onto Clilias to prevent Vigor from getting up. So my opponent has like less damage, and then I take the second turn to push up with my DJB. And from here, I'm set to continually stun this Clilias until she dies, because, you know, her stripping Arya's buffs is really annoying. And now that we got Arya safely to the front of the CR bar, we're gonna push S3, and I think we basically won. But do you see how Yola doesn't do anything? First of all, Yola's tuned terribly because she went before all the DPSs, so she was full health. But another issue with the Yola is that Yola's a green unit, if you haven't noticed, and Arya's a blue unit. So the RTA frenzy means that the counterattacks against Yola don't really do that much damage. And my opponent presses S3 into Arya to try and kill her. But that's even worse for my opponent because now Yola has invincibility and takes no damage from Aureus either. We get a lucky hit onto Aiden, but you know, I'm not going to complain about it. I don't think it would have changed much because I would have just pressed S3 here with Peyra and soul burned Aiden down eventually. But yes, this Arya Peyra combo I am finding very disgusting because normally really fast openers don't do well with Arya, but since Peyra herself enters stealth, it's pretty good. It's very good. It's very disgusting. My opponent also didn't pick enough anti-debuffers, so he's just gonna get stun locked until the end of the game. He might eventually kill my Arya with Yola, but I don't think that matters too much when the APOC is never going to move and Yola is going to need to S3 like at least 3 times to reach the stunny. But yes, we're continually just grinding our team down. My opponent, again, can't do anything. Yola into Arya being a bad matchup, oof. We finally get DJB out of stealth here, which kind of sucks, but it should be fine. The damage is already done. We got a kind of piggy dual attack, but there was a few instances of good RNG in this game, but I don't really think they matter too much in the grand scheme of things. Even if APOC decided to slam the S3 there, we had mitigation from Escort plus the blind, so it's really dice roll on whether it would kill. I make a giant fuck up here. I shouldn't have soul burned here because it procs Yola. I should have waited until Peyra gave me a 2-turn attack buff and then went for the soul burn kill. But again, this APOC's not moving. I unfortunately get my Arya killed even though she hard carried this game. I'm very sorry, Arya. I did you so dirty. But yeah. I'm still learning because I was so addicted to Clilias. I'm in Clilias rehab, but we nabbed the first win against Hui by playing more of a standardish anchor style. We're gonna go for the next match, but yeah. Free water drinking ASMR, who doesn't love that? We're gonna go into the second match. Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about this, but your pre-bans should reflect what your comp is weak to. And so my pre-bans reflect that. I really love my books, and Peyra DJB is really weak into Summer Luluka. So I'm kind of forced to ban those two. I would prefer to ban Lua or something, or Zio even. But, you know, it's not something I have too much control over currently. Until better answers to Summer Lulukas come out. But yeah, my opponent decides to first pick AOL hand guy, so I respond with a few answers. Peyra is really good into AOL and hand guy just because she gives you like the first turn initiative, and DJB is like decent into AOL because you can either push above her or resist and cleanse above her. My opponent picks Lone Crescent Bologna and Designer a little bit, which were like pretty decent answers because they have reach for Steny and they have like anti-debuff abilities. But I decided I don't want to play standard against this and I want to speed this draft up. So I do that by picking Aiden and Laika. I know Laika's gonna get banned because most turn 2 players ban her. And you might be wondering, wait, why did you leave Landy, and aren't you just gonna die to her? And the answer is no, because what Para can do here is my opponent has no mint. So she's able to just rip the S2, reveal Landy from stealth, give the whole team attack buff, and although Landy does have skill null, we have Soulburn on Stenny to actually pop it. We're able to just push up with DJB here, but unfortunately, thanks to Warhorn and AOL's passive cleansing out the restrict, Handguy's able to cut, but I don't think it matters too much. My opponent has a few plays here. He either presses S3 or he tries for the S2 onto like Aiden or DJB, but none of the options are too great because again, Emma Bologna has Unbuffable on. But my opponent actually goes for the S1 to try and cut with AOL, but it's not enough because DJB pushes 30%. We proc Landy's skill nullifier here, and I make another kind of like piggy play. I go for the S3 onto Bologna because there's no mid, and I obviously one-shot her because my Stenny is really high damage. But in hindsight, the correct play was I S3 Landy, and then I eat the S2 counterattack from Moonlight Bologna, and my Aiden would miss ideally, and then I would S3 the Bologna and one-shot her. But you know, all's well that ends well. It was a pretty nice showcase of like how if you don't like the units that they're picking, you can always just speed it up and not deal with them. But yeah, but I don't want to only show like aggressive matches either. Like this comp has a lot of defensive potential just because the whole unit pool is really annoying. My opponent first picks Zio, and something tells me with their pre-bans that they're some sort of cleaver. So we obviously have to respond. You never want to lie back down and let the opponent just draft whatever speed. Like if you want to force them, if they want to take turn 1, you kind of want to force them to take like speed imprints, just because, you know, in Epic 7's high tempo game, letting them just run over your whole team turn 1 is very difficult unless you have an account geared to deal with that, such as like Cyanox or like Ace Trainer. Anyway, my opponent responds to DJB Para with Jacko Ran, which is kind of disgusting. So I decide to pick my utility picks here with like FCC for mitigation, and then I counterpick a DPS with Karina because neither of the first 3 DPS are particularly great at killing Karina. Maybe with Ran Soulburn S3, but you know, there's an RNG chance that she doesn't get soul.
Stop it.
She doesn't get death broken there. And my opponent picks a Violet, which is kind of making me die of cringe on side. Which is making me die of cringe inside. So I'm just kind of like, what the fuck? What am I watching type of deal? But I'm kind of thinking about a way I can get myself out of this draft. Maybe I can pick Briarwitch Hysteria because Briarwitch has stealth with Guiding Light, and then with immunity, maybe she doesn't get popped out. My opponent last picked Celine, so I actually decided to go for Senya here just because Senya is good against pretty much the whole draft because Jacko needs debuffs and stuff. I ban Violet because I'm not too sure about my Karina souling Violets. And my opponent banned Senya, which is like pretty understandable. And I think I should have switched imprints here to give Para's like team release imprint, but you know, like not too important. Zio does unfortunately outspeed my Para. Feels kind of bad, man. What can you do? But my opponent has a few options and none of them are great. He either pushes back my Para and my DJB cuts him, or he pushes back my DJB and then my Para naturally outspeeds Ran. He chooses the one where he pushes back DJB, so we're able to prevent any of the shenanigans coming out from Ran. I go for the S1 onto Ran in hopes that, you know, I get a stun, which I luckily do. But I think this was playable without it. I honestly think the correct play here is S3ing with Peyra just to force the Celine to go in front of Ran, so Celine can't just S3 into my Karina that's death broken, but you know, it all worked out, so I'm not gonna complain about it. This Jackal was going to be Omega useless anyway, just because there was no good like debuff targets for her to kill. And my opponent, I guess, is saving Celine for the proc here, where she can get like her S2 and then soul burn into Karina for the win. But I just go and quickly slam my Karina S3 into this Ran just so I can not deal with death broken units on my side. But you can see how if I picked Steny here as a safe DPS, it also would have worked out because I just would have pressed S2 and soul burned into Ran and we would have been fine. So you can actually pick Steny into these comps. It's just I would recommend that if you're going to pick Steny in these kind of cleave scenarios, you kind of need higher EHP than mine. Like she needs to be able to live a Ran S3 with Sword of Summer Twilight and no mids, but my Steny cannot. But that's like why I don't pick Steny into these situations. My opponent is just kind of in here roping me at this point because without Ran death breaking my team, there's like no hope that they're going to do anything. My FCC has ER2, so Jackal landing debuffs isn't even 100%. They're holding skills until Celine gets at S2, but again, now that FCC is able to go and give everyone skill nulls, boom, look at that. We're now able to press our abilities for free. And I'm not too sure who this is going into because none of these units built attack, but I guess it was FCC. So yeah, I think I would have been safe to press Peyra S3 at the start just because the S2 would have gone into FCC. And then even if he soul burned S3 with Karina, I have mid on my side. And my opponent doesn't, I don't know if they know, but my Karina's on Noble Oath. So him hitting me just makes me tankier. Like his units might be doing a lot of damage right now, but look at that. Like it wouldn't have been enough to kill, and this Karina would have definitely one-shot his team with the S3 and Noble Oath. But yeah, I hope that was a pretty good demonstration of how you can adapt a few set of core units into like anti-cleave scenarios and be really flexible. It's not the easiest. Playing more standardish means that you need more ML5s and you need more units geared to respond to other units, and you need one set of speed gear. But since this speed gear is not DPS, it's not as bad, you know? But these are something to keep in mind if you want to be like your favorite neighborhood YouTuber slash Twitch streamer slash content creator. But yeah, my opponent's roping me, but like whatever, dude. We're all just trying to have fun in RTA, and I can respect that. I'm trying to get to another Karina S3, but I accidentally kill the enemy too fast for that. Like I was trying to see like what the maximum Noble Oath damage was here, but it's not looking too hot because I don't think so. I don't think Karina's getting to the point where we're gonna have a second S3. I accidentally killed a Zeo with a crit too, so that's kind of an L. But we're gonna see what the max damage of a Noble Oath Karina is here. And you know, it was pretty decent for like no defense buff, sorry. But yeah, that was my TLDR explanation for how to play this drafting guide with a few examples. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Oh yeah, if you want to, please like and subscribe, leave a comment, follow me on Twitch. I stream like on Sunday, so like the day after this goes up. But yeah, see ya.